Hello and welcome to Mother Rucker and the Interpros show collab as we cover the third round of the 2026 Interpros. I'm Ailbhe O'Nolan.
And I am still, despite rumours, Cian O'Mullor.
Joining us again, but not wearing red this time, is the rugby nerd Caolán Scully. Welcome, Caolán.
Thanks for having me back. I had a feeling you were going to mention the colour of what I'm wearing.
And I just like that idea.
I just like to throw it out there that this is not a sign of allegiances the same way that last week or the week before wasn't. It's just what I have on me on a given day.
I mean, you should have just worn yellow.
I mean, I'm not sure I pull it off. I was going to wear white, but it just makes it look very washed in this camera. So you know how it is.
I'm pretty sure I can see the smoke rising out of the back of you there from wearing the blue top. So you'll have to get it off quick smart when you're done.
I love it. Right, guys, round 3 of the Interpros, it saw a resurgent and quite dominant Leinster side run in 11 tries against Ulster and Belfast, not quite what we predicted, while Munster put in yet another strong dominant performance against Connacht and the Dexcom, booking their place in the final next weekend with absolutely no surprise whatsoever. So before we go and talk about the matches at the weekend, let's have a quick look. There was a 36-player WXV Global Series training squad announced this week. This is just a training squad. It's not going to be the final squad for the competition, but some interesting names in there, Caolán.
Yeah, it's great to see 7 new caps. We'll get onto them in a minute. That's the jumping off point. I would be disappointed if this squad gets trimmed by any more than 4 or 5 players, because ultimately you have 2 tests against Japan. One of them is not WXV and the other one is, well, it's still Japan. It's still Team Ireland should be beating fairly handily. I understand going smaller for South Africa. There's costs involved. But like a 36 player squad, I believe it is, to take on USA at home, Japan at home, and Japan at home again, is pretty much what you'd be expecting. Like the 7 new caps: Beth Buttimer, Sophie Barrett, Kate Jordan, Jemima Adams-Furling, Caitríona Finn, Lucia Lynn, and Alana McInerney. You would have expected all of them to have been thereabouts, depending on squad size. I think in particular Finn, Buttimer, and probably McInerney were probably the most certain to get in, just given injuries and things like that. Bevan Parsons is involved despite being an injury doubt. No Del McMahon, who, as far as I'm aware, has not made it back in time from injury, and no Nancy McGillivray either. So it's a very good squad. I did a podcast with name drop Anna Capeless during the week, and she did mention it is a very deep squad. It is a sign of the progression. But at the same time, of those 36 players, you do want to be seeing 32, 33 progress into the squad at the next jumping off point. And you want to be seeing of those 7 new caps, probably at least 3. Like realistically, like Buttimer and Finn, at their time, their apprenticeship is long over, and I think 2 or 3 more, so at least 3 or 4 new caps. Personally, because ultimately, yes, WXV Global Series is a great opportunity to test yourself and to move up rankings and things like that, but also it's an opportunity to build players, because we're not going to do it in the Six Nations, so why not do it now? But on the face of it, a very, very good squad, and probably one of our deepest squads in a long time, form considering.
I find it kind of odd when we're looking at these squads, because we do this very regularly when it comes to the men's game. What squad is going to be in Ireland camp, what squad is going to be in the Lions, and we tend to look across, very long seasons and who's performing across those seasons. We don't have that luxury when it comes to the women's game. They play across multiple competitions when it comes to the AIL, some of them in 15s, some of them in the Celtic Challenge, some of them in the Six Nations, some of them in all sorts of different competitions, and then the Interpros as well. So I think it's a little bit bitty, and it's hard to really pinpoint who's on form and who is going to be included, who's going to be omitted. For me, the one big omission, and this might be me wearing a bit of a Munster hat, she's McGuire. She's on a central contract. She's off playing sevens, I think Irish University sevens. why isn't she in this training squad? She is performing so exceptionally well. She's such a dynamic winger, particularly with Amy Lee Costigan, who's not around at the moment after having her twins. Why not have her involved in this squad? Caolán, does that stick out to you as well as an omission?
Yeah, it's one of the ones that when got highlighted in, group chats, as we all do in this day and age, that's how we all converse. One of the first things that was said is no Chisholm, and one of the second things that was said is, geez, a sevens competition like that is a load of, whatever. And look, everyone has their own opinion on sevens and different things, and if someone wants to tackle me full on about sevens, absolutely, I'm more than willing to have the debate. But a university sevens versus a WXV training camp is where I'd probably draw the line.
No,
they don't compare. That's the thing. And look, if Chisholm sees a future for herself in sevens, absolutely, that's an entirely different question. But I think you look at this squad, and for me personally, and this isn't trying to stick the knife in or to be, armchair analyst or anything, I don't think there's an awful lot quality wise between the wingers. Personally, I don't think we're in a situation where, like, for me personally, I'd be going Robin O'Connor starting fullback. Nothing against Stacey Flood. I just think she can bring an extra dimension from there. David Parsons is an injury tout. Anna McGann was playing centre at the weekend. Vicky Elms-Kinlan, I don't think there's a lot between her and Alana McInerney, and ditto Chisholm alongside that. So all that has to be balanced on the face of it. And I think it is part of the frustration that we get with Ireland squads is sometimes you look at the shiny new thing or whatever that might be, the flair player, and they're just not included. And it is frustrating. I think she will get capped. I think she'll get capped at some stage. I said it during the Ulster game. But if you had said, gun to your head, which of those uncapped Munster players gets capped first, I probably wouldn't have said her at the same time. So I probably have to say that. That's not a quality thing. I just wouldn't. I would have been leaning towards Alana McInerney, and I think I said it last week as well, that she'd be getting back in again. So it's one to watch, definitely, because also there's a couple of players in there who are not centrally contracted. One in particular we spoke about last week in Enya Breen. But I just look at the back three, and I think we almost have a situation where there's so many options, and it does feel a bit samey. Now Alana is uncapped, granted, and I will hold my hand up there. Niamh Gallagher only has 1 cap, Robin O'Connor only has 4 caps. But I'm just thinking, could more be done? Potentially. That's just me. If Bavin goes down and we don't see a back three replacement, that's when the kind of frustration kicks in, if you know what I mean. So it's definitely one to watch. Like I still want to see all those players, all those 7 in this squad, the likes of Chisholm, the likes of multiple others, Jane Neal centrally contracted, Ellen Boylan centrally contracted. I want to see those players getting capped before the next World Cup. We are only in year 1. Sometimes you have to dial things back, but we get onto it maybe now, maybe at a later date. I want to be seeing 2 or 3 appearances for these people. So because it's not that they're not ready. They are. They have played at a standard. I believe the Interpros, Munster, Leinster are as high as any Celtic Challenge game. So I have full confidence in a lot of them, and that's more where it comes from for me.
Yeah, year 1 seems like the time to really build that depth and to get those fresh caps in, get them a bit of experience. You touched on Enya Breen there. I have to say I was disappointed to see her not get a central contract, but delighted to see that she's in this training squad. I'm sure she's kind of, wondering a little bit, why am I centrally contracted if I'm here? But I think she's a player that adds a lot of depth. She's, a bit of a utility player between 10 and 12. And to be honest, I'd stick her pretty much anywhere on the back line if you are in a panic situation in a match, you've run out of subs. She's somebody who's very capable and can slot in. I have to say I am delighted to see Alana McInerney in there. She has been absolutely tearing it up in the AIL. She's been wonderful in the Interpros. She is absolutely, utterly humble, and there's no airs and graces about her. She's one of the nicest people ever. But I think, Caolán, you and me are very much on the same page when it comes to Alana McInerney. Yeah, she scored a hat-trick at the weekend as a winger. To me, she's a 13. She's an out-and-out 13. I think she's very, very effective defensively. She's very effective on both sides of the ball. And And she could be a natural progression, or at least somebody to push Aoife Dalton a little bit more. Aoife Dalton's one of the best defensive 13s that there is in the game, and certainly one of the best in this country. And having somebody else giving her a little bit of competition, like, that's the kind of thing that players die for in the training situations and the build up to big competitions. Anybody else stand out to you, Caolán, as either great to see included or omissions?
I suppose straight off the bat, like as I said, Adele McMahon and Nancy McGillivray not included is marketable, because they are two of the three players along with, Adele wasn't in the Six Nations squad. Elena Perry was, she has retired, so they're probably the ones who stand out most. Bevan being included, having scared the rugby public by posting that she was in Santry on her Instagram page, is notable as well. But I think the one I'd probably look at most is probably Siobhan McCarthy. I think she is the form loose head in Ireland at the moment. Niamh O'Dowd will be coming into that USA game, and you have to imagine she will start that USA game. And I'm a big fan of Niamh O'Dowd. I've interviewed her before. She's a wonderful human. She's a wonderful prop, but she's going to be coming in cold. I think having someone like Siobhan McCarthy there, even if it's just to scrummage against in training or to run notes off of, Siobhan McCarthy, who more than likely will have gone 2 rounds with Linda Dugang in this spell, match games, like important games. I don't think that can be discredited, and she is playing very well. I know she got a yellow card the last day, but look, that happens from time to time. Props aren't exactly known for getting yellow cards around the field, so I'm not going to blame her for it, but that's probably the one that I'd look at most, because I look elsewhere in the side. I know I mentioned Chisholm. I think centres is fairly nailed on. I think back 3 is fairly nailed on. Half back, that's exactly the 5 I would have had in there, especially with Katie Whelan returning and playing so well the last day. Back row, surprised by Ailish Quinn, but I think that's more because I thought Adele McMahon would be back. That's not a judgment on Ailish Quinn. Delighted to see Jemima Adams-Verling. I think she's a quality operator.
Heavy carrier.
I think heavy carrier, really fronts up, really grabs the game by the scruff of the neck, which for a young player is not easy. I think she's only 20, I think. But for me, Siobhan McCarthy is the one. She's played the last few weeks with a maturity that comes with travelling around and getting outside of Ireland, and having different experiences and different clubs and different backgrounds. And she looks a better player than she did 12 months ago, ultimately. And she was in a World Cup squad 12 months ago. I understand why they went with Elena Perry in the last while, but for me, that's the call. That's the one from a purely selection standpoint. And we can get into who we'd like to see start in position X, Y, or Z or whatever. But for the 36, that's the one. Now, look, as well as that, you could look at someone like, say, Claire Bowles. Could she get called in, for example, if we're a little bit light in the back row? Again, Hogan and Wafer will not have played. Fiona Tudor-Sullivan was on a return to play minute manage at the start of the Interpros. Jane Clossie picked up a knock. Sam Mon and Dorothy Wall also haven't played. I think that's one you could have looked at as well, if she was available. But yeah, McCarthy is probably the one. Chisholm is the other. And on the flip side, delighted to see Adams-Verling, McInerney and Lane in particular. I think the others were going to be in the squad anyway. But definitely delighted to see those. And just to plug it, I spoke to Lana McInerney after the match the last day, and what you said about no airs and graces, absolutely as charismatic and as bubbly of an interview as I will ever have as long as I'm doing this. It was great. It was a great 5 minutes spent. But so delighted for her. But I think Siobhan McCarthy is probably the one that jumps out to me.
I told you the story, but I'll tell it again. When I met some of the Munster team over in Exeter in the World Cup last year, and I was getting introduced to a few of them, and it was, I'm in my element as a Munster fan, meeting the team, and then Alana's like, "Hi, I'm Alana," and I just said, "I know exactly who you are," and she goes, "Really?" I said, "You're Alana McInerney," and she goes, "Yeah." So she comes around and gives me the biggest hug. She was just so happy that somebody knew who she was. And I was like, I'm sorry, you're tearing it up in the AIL year after year. How would I not know who you are? Like, she's fabulous.
She made a similar comment in that interview, actually, about like being recognised by fans and things like that. And I was like, do I get in there that this story was told to me the other day when I know I'm putting this interview on a podcast? And I was like, I might leave it off. She's got to go and celebrate and meet people and whatever. But it was in my head. I was thinking, I was like, I could tell that story, but it's not mine to tell. So if she's listening, we were thinking of her.
I just found it so bizarre that she was so happy that I recognized her. I was so happy she was talking to me. Like she's fabulous. She's absolutely fabulous. Right, we might move into the matches then at the weekend. So it started off with Ulster against Leinster. We had our little predictions at the end of the podcast last week, and Leinster just went and scored more than double what we thought they would score. Cian, Leinster have improved yet again in round 3.
Yeah.
Not great in round 1, improved in round 2, really firing in round 3. Was it a case that Ulster didn't show up, or is it just that Leinster clicked on the day?
It's weird to call a 75-5 match a curate's egg, but it really was. It was weird in places. The level of handling errors hasn't come down that much since that first game, but the scores have crept up, which I suppose is kind of, you can only play who's in front of you. And I think Ulster, their line out cost them. Their defensive connectivity or lack thereof cost them badly. They were also compacted very easily and left an awful lot of space out wide. Which a couple of the Leinster backs decided to have a fair bit of fun with, but also there was
mainly Robin O'Connor.
Mainly Robin O'Connor. O'Connor filled her bit. I mean, a hat trick in 21 minutes against anyone is pretty good going where it's not a game of sevens. Honestly, it's hard to say that. You can say both things. Leinster's backs definitely clicked. Leinster's scrum definitely had a good day too. There was a couple of bright moments in the line-out as well, particularly that maul steal from Ruth Campbell in the second half, swum right up through the middle like a shark going for the bigger boat. It was absolutely brilliant to watch that. But yes, the backs clicked more. The forwards clicked more. The passing, just the movement in open play was generally a bit better as well. But those handling errors are still there. I still think they're probably trying to push towards a bit too much of an open game. Just maybe forcing it a little bit, whereas maybe the thing to do would just be to take it into contact and change the point of contact from there. But nonetheless, you can't take it away from 5-try Robin O'Connor. Aoife Dalton set the tone with that opening try. Great break to do that. Stacey Flood had a good game. Vicky Kilman got one in at least on the other end. But Ruth Campbell was proper second row stuff. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Absolutely engine. I there's just something about putting in a performance like that. It's not glamorous, but by God, it stirs the blood.
Don't know if I've ever seen a glamorous second row. I can't think of one. It's not a position that really sings glamour.
I think it's actually an insult if you say a second row is glamorous. It's like, what else were they doing? Were you not, doing your job, Roy Keane style,
I feel like, I feel like you have to be the hardy out, not care about your ears or your face or anything. Just
no.
You're right in the middle. You're wedged between people's thighs. Yeah, you just got to go for it.
Yeah, as little fear as a back row, but you're shoved in between two props most of the time. So, yeah.
I feel like Joe McCarthy's like, oh, Christ, I'm almost good looking. Really bad mullet. That'll fix that.
I think we figured it out.
That's a rugby thing.
Unfortunately, it is. Yeah. I have to agree with you, Cian. Like it did seem that Ulster were just so compacted so quickly, and Leinster would just go, okay, just run it at them for 2 phases, and then deep and wide, and let Robin O'Connor just jog them in. Although she did still have plenty of work to do from time to time for several of those tries, but made it look like nothing. Like Robin O'Connor gets the ball. Okay, there's 6 defenders in front of her, but 6 isn't enough. What? Like
Yeah,
she's so capable.
yeah. And there was a couple of lovely reads in there as well. It wasn't all down to kind of big gaps in defense. There was some nice positioning in the passing channels
Mm,
that resulted in really, really nice line breaks and tries. Ulster weren't all bad. I mean, there were some bright sparks. Olivia McKinley was pretty
mm,
good, like quick thinking with that 5 meter tap penalty to get their only score. Bowles, as always, absolutely put her shoulder to the mill and put the work in. But again, Ulster, their kicking was awful. I'm
yeah,
sorry. Again,
yeah.
I hate saying it, and
Mm,
I would love to soften it somehow, but it was just awful. From hand, from the tee, aimless, short, just bad.
yeah, yeah. It
That
seems like
is a
that skill
problem.
isn't in the team.
This is something actually I thought as well, was that a lot of the issues that I could see, some of it was shape. Like both
Mm,
sides, defensively and offensively, they didn't seem to have much shape other than kind of one out and then pop it back in or pop it outside. There wasn't much industry other than that. There wasn't much rhythm or recognition of when they'd need to kick in behind because it wasn't going anywhere with the carry.
mm,
Um, but a lot of the specialist skills that were letting them down as well, like the throwing of the line out wasn't great, the timing of the line out wasn't great. The handling skills at times let them down as well. And then the kicking skills as well. So a lot of that is specialist skill sets. Um, and a big problem with that is you need two things. You need quality coaching and you need time on the pitch practicing those skills. And I'm not convinced that they've necessarily got either of those in place currently.
yeah, it really does kind of give that impression, all right, that it's just not quite there for them. Um, Looking back at Leinster again, I in particular was impressed with the halfback combination. They mixed it up this week. Katie Whelan at 9, who she stood out to me 2 years ago when Leinster last won the Interpros. And she was a lot younger and a lot greener back then. She's very exciting talent. Picks the ball, takes a step, puts the defence on the back foot and then makes her decision show and go or pass the ball. And then Ellie O'Sullivan Sexton slotted in there like she's been doing that for donkey's years and played with great maturity, making some good decisions. Cian, did they seem like a really dynamic duo to you that worked very well together?
Yeah, Sexton it was mature. It was. I mean, that's her second start at 10 for Leinster. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 10 from 11, anyone would be happy with that
Yeah, her kicking was exceptional.
at any level. Like 10 out
Mm,
of 11 is rare, and we've spoken before about how important it is to convert your tries in women's rugby, because you don't get many penalties that are going to be within kickable range, so you need to take your additional points
mm-hmm.
with the conversions. I mean, 91%. That's, I mean, if you can keep that, if you can reproduce that, that's fantastic.
Mm,
Didn't go too often to the crossfield kick. I'd say it was fierce tempting with the chaos that was going on
yeah.
and the space that was out wide. I'm glad held fire for most of it, and I think it was 2 or 3 crossfield kicks in the end, and pretty much on the money
Mm,
with all of them. They didn't all come off due to timings, etc.
mm,
But the kicks were in exactly the right,
mm.
going to the exact right places.
Crossfield kick is a gamble as it is,
It is.
it's often used when you have an advantage, so you can make that
Mm,
gamble. I think her decision making though when she was doing it was very good.
yeah, that was the thing. Just because you have a hammer doesn't mean everything's a nail. So she
Mm,
had the ability to make the crossfield kicks, but decided not to every time, and that was the correct call, because there was space there to be had without
mm.
taking the additional risk of the crossfield kick. And then we get to Katie Whelan. Um, Absolutely. God, I would love her confidence.
Mm.
I would pay
Oh
good money
yeah,
to
she's
have that
full
much
of it.
confidence. You have to. If you're
Mm,
going to play like that as a scrum half, you have to have confidence that you are not going to second guess yourself, because you stutter,
mm.
you're going to get buried under 3 back rows.
Yeah.
And you can't afford to do that
Yeah.
because you're going to have a lock trying to play scrum half then out the back, and that's no good for anyone. They're not glamorous, and they're not good at getting down and passing the ball from the pace of a ruck.
No. Or getting the ball to another person.
No. Maybe with the offload, but you never know. That's a bit modern. But yeah, she was finding herself in the right parts of the pitch as well. Not just at the ruck. Her ruck work was great. Being able to spot the holes, not in the defense, not just for the passing lines, not just taking orders from the out half or whoever was calling for it at the back, but to be able to see that the scoot is on.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely foresight for such a young player. And as you said, not as young as she was when she was in Preston before, but yeah, it's a pretty exciting pair.
Yeah, I'm so happy we got to see Katie Whelan, because I was worried that we wouldn't. And great to see that she's included in the training squad as well. For me, I love how she mixes it up. You know, she can spend time at the bottom of the ruck waiting for a pack to get prepared, waiting for her pods to set up. Next one, she can just pick it and keep
Whip it out.
those pillars honest. And you know, she at times she's quite dynamic. You know, there was one where 8 picked, passed it out to her, and she just ran in a try because she saw, listen, there's a little bit of space. We get one over, we're putting the defence under pressure. And, you know, she's identifying those things. And it looks like she's making those decisions really early, which is exactly what you're asking for your scrum half to do, is to notice things quicker and not rely on everybody else to tell you what to do. Because you got 6 people saying, oh, me, or go left, or go right, or go short. You know, she's making her decision for herself, and she's making it split-second time, and she's doing it really, really well. Very crisp pass of the ball as well. So, I mean, I'd be saying she's over Ailbhe Riley for me. And Ailbhe Riley's very, very good scrum half, but I love...
I have to interject here. I have to interject.
Objection, Your Honour, objection.
No, I just wanted to be a bit dramatic on, you know, my last or penultimate episode in this run. I was actually going to say, when we started the Katie Whelan chat, of who is your starter now, because I actually think herself, in what we've seen, Ailbhe and Emily Lane have all been brilliant. I think they've all had a really good couple of weeks. Like, I think obviously this week went, you know, less than perfect for Connacht, obviously, but Ailbhe was excellent the week before, very good in her 40 minutes the week before that. I think Emily Lane has had 3 stellar starts. That's the one thing she has, as well as being the current starter from the Six Nations. I would not be against them all getting one start in WXV Part 1, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
It's not the Irish way. And Cian, you're probably best served to tell us that. It's not the Irish way.
That's not the way we do things around here,
yeah,
Caolán.
exactly. This is the man who started. Didn't say O'Sullivan Sexton. Said Sexton was mature, and I had flashbacks to 2023.
Yeah, we're not quite up to Sexton's on fire yet, but you know, we're dusting them off.
She's also not that mature, just saying.
Yeah, and at least she can move. But anyways, that's a different conversation.
I have to say, like, for me, I love a scrum half who's an absolute bloody terror, that you don't know what they're going to do. Your DuPonts, your Faf de Klerks, you know, all of these scrum halves who just make life an absolute nightmare. I fell in love with Stringer many moons ago, and ever since, you know, if the scrum half is just, you know, a little bit predictable, just the person to ship the ball out, boring. Do away with them. Somebody who's going to keep defences honest. Yeah, want them all day long. So to move on quickly to Caolán, a few of the rumours that have been going around, and I'm hearing kind of stories second and third kind of hand about stuff that's been going on in the Leinster camp. We spoke about, you know, what was going on week 1. Is it a coaching thing? Is it a system thing? Is it a player thing? Is it lack of game time? But it does sound like there has been a little bit of turmoil in terms of the dissatisfaction with coaches. At least that's what I've been hearing at a camp. But, you know, if all of that is true, it does seem like they've overcome those issues, whether it's coming together with the coaches or coming together in spite of the coaches. It's hard to tell, but they have come together.
Yeah. Can I plead the fifth? No.
You can, of course. Of course you can.
My paycheck is still coming from up the road from the Leinster training base. No, I think, look, if I've heard similar. I've heard similar that it probably hasn't been all rosy. I put actually the point I made last week was I have a fear that some of the Irish players come in undercooked to the start of a new block of games. I put that to Anna Capeless yesterday when I interviewed her. She didn't buy it. She just thinks it could be just as simple as new coaching staff. That's something that Leinster have had to deal with for a couple of years, and that could be a lot of it. I think the longer this series goes on, the more you'd probably lean that way, in that, constant coaching upheaval, different ideas, different mentalities. But ultimately, am I going to crown Leinster because they beat Ulster by a huge scoreline? No, I'm not. And that's not to be disrespectful to either team. It was a good win. Ulster are what they are. But at the same time, the game was over by half time. And realistically, do you take Anthem from the second half? I'm a big believer, and I may have said it here before. I've said it on other podcasts. Judge a game and judge players by when the game is there to be won. And I'm a big believer in that. Like Robin O'Connor flew out the blocks. Do you know what I mean? For example, now I didn't see this game, I've only watched the highlights, so I can't judge. But like, when a game is there to be won, who steps up? For Munster, for example, I thought Jane Clossie had an unbelievable first half before picking up a knock. And then by the time she goes off, that game was won. It was over. And I think the big question now for Leinster is, if they find themselves in another arm wrestle, if they're not getting go forward ball like they have the last 2 weeks, if their halfbacks are being scragged and pulled or their scrum is going backwards, do they have the answers? So far, I would say they don't. But I think they have the players on field who are able to figure it out, or should be able to figure it out. And I think that's the biggest disappointment from the game in Cork, was there was no, not counter message, but there just seemed to be nothing to turn that tide for them. Nothing.
There was a plan A and a plan A only is kind of how the game panned out.
I think we said it at the time. It was kind of a case of, this is Ireland at their worst, where we have one plan and we don't know what to do apart from that, and like, I'm not going to write Leinster off for this final. Matt Brown has been effusive in the 3 interviews he's done since Saturday full time. Leinster are going to be a different animal. They're still basically a test side. They're still going to be super physical. But at the same time, Leinster scrum improved against Ulster. Well, yeah, it should. They're going to get a tougher scrummaging test. I actually think their line has been all right the whole way through. Their star players stepped up. Well, yeah, they should have. That's the thing. The question now is, can they go up another level or two? Because I think that's where they need to get to win this weekend. I don't. Look, ultimately, like, Leinster can win this game. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But
they have to be on their best performance, though, right?
Yeah, and I don't think last week has any real, accountability to it. And like, without being disrespectful, but like, if Leinster played, Zebra or the Dragons in round 18 of the URC, you're not handing them a title for the following week. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of what this is. So they're going to need a different type of performance and a grittier type of performance than that we've seen over the last 3 weeks. But that's for later on when we discuss the final.
Well, that brings us, quite neatly into the Connacht Munster game over in the Dexcom at the weekend. We almost got our predictions spot on. Myself and Cian said 10:46 and it was 12:47. So, Cian, we were good. We were good. Very wrong about Leinster. But anyway, Caolán, Munster have been just utterly dominant throughout all 3 of the league rounds. Is there any chink in their armour? They adapt so well to everything that's in front of them. Where is the weakness, if any?
If there's a weakness, it is the 3 players whose fitness they are sweating on the most at the time that everyone hears this. Ailbhe Cahill, Jane Clossie and Maeve O'Leary. Now, to that point, I think that Alicia Flynn was very good the last day, better than I would have expected. I think Evo Flynn and Clodagh O'Halloran are having very good tournaments and can do a job in the second row. And I think Sally Kelly and Grace Moore have probably been the 2 best back rowers of this tournament. So individually, none of those players should be missed. Collectively, they might be. And that is the fear for Munster now, because we asked Matt Brown earlier on. I think I asked him. I'm gonna say I asked him. You've no reason to discredit this.
I'm pretty sure you did, actually. If you're gonna say what I think you're gonna say.
But I did ask him how. I did ask him about the fitness, and he doesn't know. That's the nature of the Interpros. Like, they don't have these players for 5 days a week. They were up in Dublin today. He does not know. Reading between the lines, I think they're less confident on Ailbhe, because that's the one they keep saying essentially Dublin will make that call. And that's going to be a huge loss if she doesn't feature. But again, do they have a chink in the armour? I don't think they do. That's the thing. Like, we talk about it being a 23-player game, well, their bench have done all right. Obviously better when Caitríona Finn was there naturally, that she, have that kind of level raising ability. But like, they still have the quality to win this. I think they're the best coached team. They did the best set piece. I think physically they've been absolutely monstrous in the first 240 plus minutes of action so far. They don't have a chink in the armour. They just have a question mark around 3 very, very important players. And that's not me hedging my bets. I still will predict Munster to win. I still think they should win. I still think they're the best team in the competition. But that's 3 test caliber players, ultimately, in a pack of 8. Do you know? So that's the question mark.
Yeah, it is. It is something that you'd not want to see Eilish Cahill miss out on that. Maeve Vogue as captain, she started the first game. She went off with a knock. You'd love to see her come back for the final as captain, and as such a good, impactful player and a solid leader. At the weekend, though, we saw Caitríona Finn start at 10. Enya Brennan started at the previous 2 games. Enya moved to 12, Caitríona in at 10. And no shock to anybody, Caitríona Finn really impressed. She's a clear playmaker. She's the type of 10 who attacks the line, who puts players through gaps if there's no gap in front of her. To me, Caolán, she looks really like the Irish 10 in the making.
Yeah, and it depends what you mean by in the making. Do you mean September 20th? Because I do, personally, and I'm not trying to...
Same.
And I made the joke, it's like, oh, it's just ratcheted up and out level the fact that it's a Munster versus Leinster 10, again, for an Irish number 10 debate. People outside of Ireland won't get that reference, but we get that reference, so it's okay.
Far too many years of that bloody reference,
It's older than me, for goodness sake.
It is older than me,
But I think she is the form 10, ultimately. Like 6 from 7 off the tee today, Saturday. That's what happens when you're reading the notes. She was 3 from 4, I think, against Ulster, and something like 3 from 5 against Leinster. A try and a brilliant assist in that run. The try against Connacht was brilliant. Just how she just glides through. Like we mentioned it before, she's a rangy player. She's deceptively tall. She has that long stride.
Very
she can
tall.
Just get that. Well, I'm not going to say I haven't met her. I don't know. I can't comment. I assume so, right? But
I'm up to one of the rays. Which one, I'm not sure.
But the way she just glides through defences, it's the type of talent we haven't seen in a long time. Ultimately, it's not the type of 10 we are used to. We've produced an awful lot of Gaelic footballer type 10s, if you want to call them that, and literally in some cases, like with Hannah Tyrrell. But I think she is in the front seat. I think it is not for nothing that she was using that graphic yesterday. I know that Scott Beeman doesn't design it. He's not sitting on Canva trying to get it out for a deadline. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think I think that might be there if you're reading the room and going like, yeah, she's gonna get capped here. Like we know it. We can print the programs now. And look, she deserves it. Anytime I've watched her play, this is the 3rd time I've seen her live. It just looks effortless, and a proper talent. And like in fairness, like it's very easy to talk about the 9 and 10 and not talk about everyone else. Like I thought Enya Brennan played well. I thought Lucia Lynn was excellent. Alana McInerney was a deserved player of the match. with her 3 tries and some brilliant defensive efforts. I know you were saying that when we were chatting on Saturday, Ailbhe, but Finn for me has just taken 10 play to another level in the last 2 weeks, in particular, last 3 weeks probably. Like, whatever she's done in a UL Bows shirt, in a Clover shirt, whatever, that's one thing. But it feels like she's getting better week on week. She's working with Dave Allred on her kicking. She's working with Gareth Steenson in IRFU camp. I wouldn't be surprised if she's working with, Briggsy on a pretty consistent basis when she's back in Limerick. And it's starting to show. And like, for someone of her age to pull it all together as quickly as she is remarkable, because I think the one thing we can say about Dana is a brilliant talent. She reads the game fantastically. She's got a brilliant boot. She's always a phase ahead, but I don't think you can say that athletically she's pulled it all together yet, because everyone takes time. Most players don't pull it together athletically until their mid-20s. A little bit younger maybe in the women's game compared to the men's, but I think Caitríona Finn is starting to pull it together athletically, and if she stays fit, look, there's 5 games there for Ireland. I want to see her get 5 caps. Like, I do. Like, I don't see the point in kind of, half-arsing it and things like that. Like, give her the 5 caps. She can play 12. She finished this game at 12 at the weekend. She can play a little bit of 15 as well. She actually played the first game of last season for UL Bows there, and it was a little bit of a statement of like, look, you expect her at 10. No, she's going to play 15, and she does well. So yeah, that's definitely one to watch. I know, like, look, when Chloe comes back on, it's going to be the Ailbhe and Caitríona Finn hour when we're discussing the Ireland games. I understand that, but like, as much as, and this is probably the one thing about this Munster team, you can talk about their defensive work rate, their physicality, their set piece, kind of non-negotiables, but not the easiest departments to win. They're able to mix that with probably the best performing backline in the competition, and I think for all Leinster's quality, I don't think you can give them that mantle. But look at that Munster backline: Lane, arguably form scrum half; Finn, probably the form 10; Gueru probably hasn't scored as many tries as she has in years gone by, but that's not exactly a criticism. She's still been very effective. Enya Breen has grown and got better game on game. Lucy Lynn has been excellent, absolutely superb. Alana McInerney is probably the form winger of the tournament so far, along with Robin O'Connor. And Aoife Corey, who has had to juggle being thrown in as captain over the last 2 games and has done very, very well. So Munster are doing very well. They're in a very good place. It's led by a couple of players like that. And we'll go back to it. A slight worry if they don't have everyone fit. But at the same time, I can't fault them so far. Like, they were saying themselves, and I could feel it. I was at the game. It was a very physical contest on Saturday. A very attritional type of game. But yet they won by 35 points. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is... And I don't like using the comparison the whole time, not just because they're English, but because, it's a bit cliched. They're red roses, like. They really, really are. And you are looking at them and saying, for what reason will they not win? As opposed to, how do you beat them? Do you know?
That has to be the most insulting compliment. They're red roses, like.
Am I wrong, though?
Deeply insulting, highly complimentary. It's so bizarre. But looking at that kind of the 10 debate, and God love us as Irish people in this 10 debate with, the Blues and the Reds, it is tough going. But it is quite reminiscent of kind of, the current status with the men's and days gone by with the men's, to the point that for the Interpros last year, myself and Cian were actually down in Munster, and we were at a Leinster training session as well. And kind of towards the end of the session, I got chatting to some fella, probably a father there to pick somebody up, or somebody there to watch that was kind of related to somebody. I don't know how. But Jesus, he turns to me and he goes, "See her? New Raj." That's what we're talking about there, the new Raj. And I was like, oh Christ. And well, yeah.
But you know what's gas though? Do you know what's gas? Because funnily enough, I got a text message in Brighton. Not great timing. I got a text message in Brighton being like, do you know what? Caitríona Finn could have done a good job today, or as good a job, because Dana got hurt that game and had to finish out, famously. Like, it was a kind of a bold strategy. But at the same time, what I find remarkable is it's actually the same as the current debate. It is the technical kicking 10 in blue against the more suave, swashbuckling 10 in red. So for all the Sexton O'Gara, forget O'Sullivan in Keane's case, for all the Sexton and O'Gara stuff, it's not. It's Curly Prendergast Part 2, and the difference is they're younger, and I won't give all my thoughts, but yeah, no, it's a fascinating, and it will benefit Irish rugby because of the fact that you have not 2 10s, you have a 10 and you have a utility player. That is a benefit. If it was 2 10s, I'd be a little bit less certain, but it's a 10 utility. It is going to benefit Ireland. They're going to get consistent minutes. I'm very, very happy with the trajectory the two of them are on, to be quite honest. And look, again, we could do hours and hours and whatever, but I'm really, really happy where the two of them are at currently.
Personally, I would hope that Caitríona Finn isn't treated like a utility player. I know it's many strings to her bows that she can play in lots of different positions, but I think we've seen more so in the men's game that utility players get a bit lost. Are you playing 15? Are you playing at 12? Are you playing at 10? Okay, they want to be playing at 10, and there's a certain red head off to Connacht this year because he wasn't getting enough time at Leinster. And Fraudy for me is a very good 10 if he's given his chance, but utility players get slotted in because they're a good player. We need to include them in the team rather than they're your nailed on 10. And for me, Caitríona Finn is the nailed on 10. She has extra strings to that bow that while Dan O'Brien liked that great read of the game, great kicking, she's not physical. Defensively, she's not great. She's not somebody who's going to hit the line and keep those defences honest. Caitríona Finn is deeply unpredictable because yes, she can run it herself and often does. It's like the old kind of adage in American football. You have your quarterbacks that only throw and only overthrow, and if there's any hint of contact coming the way, they're hitting the deck and they're not going to get sacked. And then you've got your quarterbacks who are like happy to run it, and they're so deeply unpredictable and they're a nightmare to defend against. And that for me is Caitríona Finn. She's got it all. But in saying that, I would put my money on Dana O'Brien starting every one of those games, at least 3 out of 5 of them. But I think Scott very much favours Dana. I think she is out and out his favourite. There were times when she should have come off over the last 2 years within the World Cup, within the Six Nations, and given Caitríona Finn those last 30 minutes, and he was not doing it. No, Dana's getting the 80, Dana's getting the 80, Dana's getting the 80. And it just seemed like there was a bit of a lack of trust. Talking a year and a half ago or more, Nicole Fowley did get some game time, but it was only kind of the last 20 minutes of a game, and giving a little bit of game time to an incredibly experienced player, he probably felt justified in that. I don't see him moving into kind of the Caitríona Finn era just yet, and I think now's the perfect time to do it. Like we said, it's year one of a World Cup cycle. Now is the time to get her the game time. Now is the time to really get her that experience at that level.
Yeah, I think one of the issues that Irish rugby in general, in total, faces in terms of switching up 10s is that we tend to go with a game plan that is built around a certain type of 10 play style.
That's true. It's a system.
That makes it's because the system is built to suit a specific 10 style. It's really hard to then not have another 10 go in there and get them to do the impression of the other 10 and rather than play their own game. So it can work against them if they actually do get opportunities as well. So I think there's kind of a deeper issue with Irish rugby in that sense. Whereas you look at French rugby, it's like, they just base it off their 9 instead. The 10 is just some guy.
That's so true.
We are obsessed with system players. Like we are obsessed with players who can play the right system. And like I had a joke that if I said it, because Way Keane was talking earlier, I would get cancelled. I would not get another great gig for the rest of my life, so I won't. But we are absolutely obsessed with system players, and I think it'll be interesting to see how we go forth with this because they are a bit different. And it's not just that, it's the same at centre. 9s are fairly similar to each other, back rows are fairly similar, but we've got horses for courses, second row, I would argue, hooker, out half, fullback. Let's see that. Let's expand that kind of plethora of what we want to do. That's what I'd be begging for. But at the same time, if rumours are to be believed, Dana's non-selection the last day didn't go down well in Abbottstown.
So I heard.
I don't know if that's true. You've heard it, I've heard it, other people have heard it. I don't know. But at the same time, if that's the case, then it's like, well, Elliot Sullivan's Sexton played well, so who gives a shit? Do you know what I mean? There's your tagline. there's your title, Keaton.
Right, we'll move on to the score predictions. Last week we were really, really inaccurate, like we said, with the Ulster-Leinster game, and almost on the money with the Connacht-Munster game. So, Cian, give us your score prediction for Connacht-Ulster in the finals weekend.
Okay, Connacht-Ulster. So Connacht have already beaten Ulster 15-10 in round one. Tight, low-scoring game, decided 70th minute penalty. One for the purists. But Connacht have played two since then. Was it 21-36 to Leinster, 12-47 to Munster, but they were in the games, at least in patches, throughout. Ulster have not. The closest they came to being in the game was that game against Connacht, and they haven't shown anything since. Connacht have. So my prediction is, I reckon Connacht are going to do 27 over Ulster getting 12.
Okay, Cian for you, or Caolán for you?
I know we just look like brothers. I know we always get it.
You're exactly the same. Yeah, you with your Leinster top. Yeah.
Jesus,
brothers was very generous of you. Thank you, Caolán.
You're very welcome, Cian. I know my audience, unlike Ailbhe, who's being mean to me. I'm gonna say, Connacht 38-10. There's an unfortunate statistic in there that Ulster have not nailed a place kick so far, if memory serves. Yeah. And unfortunately, we could see that continue. I think Connacht are in a great place. I think I just asked them to be a little bit more playful with their attack. It got really stymied really quickly. I know Munster's defence was excellent, but just that's all I ask them. If they just go through the hands, if they trust their skill set, I think it'll open up, and it's a home game. They're going to be absolutely buoyed by that crowd, so I think they'll win the handy.
Yeah, I think you make good points. When we were preparing the show notes for this, I was like, Connacht 22, Ulster 10. But yeah, I think you're right. The home crowd, I think Jemima Adams-Verling just running Route 1 at Ulster is going to absolutely, steamroll them. And I think, it's probably going to be a wider gap than that. I don't see Ulster getting 10 against them. So 30 points to 5 is what I'm going with. Yeah, I think it's going to be probably a hefty Connacht win. So Munster-Leinster, the really big game, the final. I'm going to come in there with my score first. I think it's going to be tighter, far tighter than the first round. I think Munster is still going to come out on top, but I think by a narrower margin, I'm going 38-27. Cian, where do you come in?
Yeah, I have this being a bit tighter than before. I mean, Munster are imperious in this competition. Let's not beat around the bush. 20-point margin against Leinster is as close as anyone's gotten so far. I reckon Leinster can improve on that. I'm hoping Munster don't improve on that. I reckon. I mean, last year was what, 50-15? I hope it's better than that.
No,
I really do.
Don't see that happening.
It's not good for the competition. But yeah, I reckon there's a chance. I think Leinster have it in them to make it tighter than 20 points. I'm going to say Munster 33, Leinster 24.
Okay, we're both going for kind of the 9-point-ish gaps. Ish, yeah. Right, Caolán, nail your colours.
I have two. Funny. I got two score lines, if you'll believe that. I have.
Okay.
If everyone's fit for Munster,
okay,
I have Munster by about 14 points, 33-19. I think Leinster will test them. I think Leinster will defensively will stress Munster's defence more than ever before. But I still think they've too much. I think those third quarters, like they've had games done by basically every third quarter so far. But if not, I'd be looking at something maybe close to 28-22. I think it could become an arm wrestle. Like it's not just you're replacing a power player who's played international. It's that you are replacing a pillar an anchor of a pack.
Yeah.
That is worth its weight in gold. There's a reason why, tight head props are paid like superstars in French rugby, because they're super important. And I think it could be the difference. I still will back Munster to win. I think there's something about their attitude. Like they're in such a healthy space psychologically at the moment. But it could become an arm wrestle. And honestly, I'm not sure whether Leinster can win an arm wrestle. Like that's the other side of it as well. I'm not 100% sure if they can. So yeah, I'm going to lean towards Munster, but it depends on who's available.
Very good. Well, that wraps up this round 3 episode. Caolán, thank you again for joining us and changing up the colours. Black, yellow, white, whatever you want next week. But just, yeah.
I'll wear a jersey next week and it'll just be a complete surprise. Like, oh my God.
Stade Francais pink or something.
Christmas jumper.
Not a bad show. Oh, Jesus Christ. It's too warm for that, Cian. Will you stop?
Cian, Jesus Christ. So anyway, the Interpro 2026 final is next weekend at the Dexcom in Galway. Starting off with that third place playoff and then into the final. It's live on the TG4 news channel. Connacht will take on Ulster at 2 p.m. Then reigning champions Munster will face Leinster at 4 p.m. Tickets are available. They're on sale on the Connacht website, and we'll hopefully include a link for that in the show notes. We will be back after next week to recap on all of the action, to discuss the fabulous winners, whoever they may be, and preview hopefully the WXV Global Series as we're hopping straight over to that competition in the next 4 weeks or so. But until then, keep on rocking.